Employment gaps, how to deal with them in job interviews and on your resume. Welcome to Bernie Chats with Bart Zych, Certified Resume Strategist. Throughout this short video, we'll provide you with valuable resources and insights. Now let's get started.
Bart, if somebody does have a gap in employment, what's the best way for them to handle that on their resume and when they're interviewing, and how do they get beyond that? Because a big part of it in my mind too, I think of it as old thinking. I think of it as the way that our grandfathers thought, because now it's very, we're privileged in Canada, and it's pretty common for somebody to say, oh, I'm going to take a bit of a sabbatical, paid or not. I'm going to take some time in between jobs. I am no longer working at that company. I got a package. So in other words, I got some money, and I think I'm going to take that trip around Europe or wherever, to Thailand, that I haven't had a chance to do till now. But now I have not only the time, but I have the money. And in my experience, usually you don't get both those two at the same time very often. Usually you either have time and no money, or you have money and no time.
That's right.
So if people find themselves in that situation, to me, it's proactive and smart of them from a life perspective to say, okay, I think I'm going to smell the roses for a few months or a year and do something that I've always wanted to do. Maybe write a book, right? So
Yes.
How do you suggest people get over that?
I did take time to travel when I was in the past in between jobs.
Right.
And travel, it's all perspective. It's how you present it. It's how you sell it to the hiring manager. And travel for the sake of travel. If you say I traveled because I was mentally overwhelmed and I needed time off, that's the wrong answer.
Right.
But if you say, I traveled because I wanted to immerse myself in different cultures, to be able to interact with different people in a more meaningful and understanding way, that's the correct answer. Especially in a country like Canada, where when you join any type of organization, it's guaranteed, almost guaranteed, to be multicultural.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the correct answers.
One of the correct answers.
Yeah.
Another correct answer is, well, during that time, I learned new skills, or I got a new certificate, or I studied and learned this.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as you mentioned, travel, time, and money rarely come together to form that perfect opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But with education, it's a little bit different, especially with online education. One of the videos that I have up on my YouTube channel talks just about that. How can you get skills for free?
Mm-hmm.
And many different cities, and I know cities like Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, many cities in the USA that I looked at, like Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles. If you get a library card from that library system in a city, you have access. For example, us in Vancouver, we have access with a library card to LinkedIn Learning, which used to be called lynda.com.
Oh, is that right? I wasn't aware of that.
LinkedIn acquired Lynda.
I knew they acquired it, but I didn't know that we had access to it through our library card.
Absolutely. So
that's awesome.
Your local library, your city library, your public library is a treasure trove of useful things that you don't have to pay for, but most people don't explore it. So again, this relates to newcomers, right? Get a library card. This should be on one of your top 5 things you should do, because it allows you access to just wonderful online resources, periodicals, company databases that you can find out the names of hiring managers and department managers and directors and C-level executives. Those are the people that make the hiring decisions, not HR or recruiters. So just like we say in sales, go for the decision maker. Same thing with being proactive about your job search. Go for the decision maker.
And I think there's a good distinction to be made there between recruiters and hiring managers.
Absolutely.
So my understanding is that the recruiter will often do the task of sourcing talent and going through the process, but then they will ultimately do it based on a request from a hiring manager, and then bring the candidates to the hiring manager to present the candidates, whether they're an
That's
internal
right.
recruiter or an external recruiter.
And you can think of a recruiter in sales terms as a gatekeeper.
Yes, for
This
sure.
is
Why
the
don't we get
person
into
that's
that? Why don't we take a bit of a break because we're going to have to get cut off here, and then we'll reconvene and we'll pick it up there. Okay, so we're back for part two of our discussion. Bernie chats with Bart Zych, the founder and operator of KISS Career Coaching. And so when we left off, we were talking about gaps in employment and the best ways for people, job seekers, to handle those, and perhaps the perspective from employers. So do you have anything you want to add about that?
I think another one that many people don't talk about or mention is caring for a friend or family member.
Yes.
So caring for somebody who's sick or unwell or in some sort of a situation where they need assistance, that is also a good explanation of a gap on the resume.
And I think a lot of people can appreciate too that grieving is also another one.
Oh, absolutely.
And not
Absolutely.
necessarily that it took you 6 months or a year to grieve, but there's often a lot of work that has to be done with an estate, selling the property, dealing with various affairs of somebody who
Legal
passes away, right?
aspects.
So if you have a
Absolutely.
parent that passes away, then it could be quite understandable that it took you, 3 months or a year to deal with it all. If
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a slightly different it could be a different situation because typically people will not resign because of this,
right.
but they may get bereavement leave. However, if that bereavement leave is not sufficient enough, then they might need to be compelled to resign, and that's where that explanation is very valid.
Or they might just happen to be out of work and looking for a job at the time, and instead of finding that job within a couple of weeks, they said, you know what, I'm going to deal with this. I've run into people who, had quite the estates to deal with. Maybe not. I have no idea if they were monetarily huge, but imagine if you have a 3,000 square foot house that your parents live in, and it's full of stuff, and you have to
That's right.
sort through and figure out what's valuable, what's not. Anyway, we're getting on a tangent with that one, but wrap up. Can you tell us a little bit more about where people can find you and learn more about what you do and some of the services that you're offering?
Sure. So I guess you can find me on many places. I would suggest perhaps the most useful place for anybody who is writing their resume in a job search, looking to grow their career, is to start with the YouTube channel that I have, which is KISS Coaching, KISS, 3 S's, coaching.
Makes sense.
And start with and KISS, like I said, stands for keep it short, simple, and specific. So the tips are very,
Awesome.
very focused. So my website is my first and last name, BART, Bart Zych, Z or Z YCH.com, bartzych.com. There is a link to the YouTube channel. You can find some of the services I provide. I run an online training school as well, which is called kiss.academy. That's the actual website address, KISSS.academy. And there's a lot of free resources that people can take advantage of and get benefit from.
Yeah, when I looked at your videos, they were really good, and I really like how they're digestible. They have great information about resumes and job finding, and I like how you paste out the speaking voice to make it easily understandable for people that have English as a second language. So it's very good, very digestible, and some great tips in there. So I'd encourage everybody to hop onto Bart's YouTube channel and check out his information. I'm sure there'll be lots of value for you there.
And I talk about many of the topics that we started to touch on in our conversation here. I go into more detail on the YouTube channel with actual examples that you can take. I have examples on Microsoft Word that I use. I give you specific sentence structure tips that you can just take and use for yourself. A lot of immediately usable stuff there.
Awesome. Well, that's great, Bart. Thanks very much. Great job. Thanks for all the valuable information.